go through again what happened in the 13th inning. Were you at any point aware that Olin Mathis had not been ejected during that instance?
No, I mean, I'll be straight up and honest, and whatever the ramifications of it are, I don't care. So Mathis hits the homer, spikes his bat. Huge moment, awesome moment. He spikes it at our dugout. It's totally fine. We've seen the other side of it, where any gesturing, motioning, bat tossing towards the other dugout, grounds for immediate ejection. We got it. But he spiked it at our dugout. Huge moment in the game. They immediately went out, and you could tell it was not about anything other than the decision to whether they were going to eject Alden, which means he's not only out of that game, but the next game. So I immediately run out there, and they shoot me away, as a just basically saying he did that at our dugout, just making sure. Walk back, our dugout, very animated, Coach Leggett, all the staff, everyone saying the same thing. Everyone, I could hear a lot of, because I moved back towards our dugout, I could hear a lot of talk of, throw it at our dugout. Their guy referencing Caglione on Tristan Smith, the one he hit off Tristan Smith, he spiked it at their dugout. Like, it's just a lot of that kind of talk going on. The crowd was loud. They just had turned and kind of shoot us a few times. No big deal, nothing at this point. And at one point, the one umpire, Billy, looked at Coach Leggett, as Coach Leggett was, animated and saying what he's saying, and he just tossed him. And then Coach Leggett came out. I kind of gave him a low five as he walked out. I did incite the crowd a little bit at that point. Coach Leggett didn't really do much. He just kind of walked out towards, in front of our dugout, not to the foul line, not on the field, just in front of our dugout. Crowd was awesome, as they always are. Umpires, sent him away or shoot him away again, and he came back. And then the crew chief came to the line. I went out there, called me up, he said, "We're not ejecting Mathis, but we are ejecting Jack Leggett, and he's suspended." And I said something like, what? That's ridiculous. And he said, he can't be yelling at the umpires like that. He's suspended because he's not allowed to come out onto the field. And I said, are you really going to eject Jack Leggett? He said, yes, we are. And also because you incited the crowd, you're ejected too, and then walked away. Well, sorry, but the competitor in me is not going to just tuck tail and turn around and go. So I started to argue more. The next umpire did what he's supposed to do to diffuse, and he said, if you don't turn around right now, you get 2 games. I said something like, I don't care. He put up 2 games, and then at that point it was like, screw it, I'm gonna get my money's worth, and I want an explanation face to face, man to man. Couldn't get that. It's just too bad. It's unfortunate because a lot of the really good officiators out there, they're able to separate their personality and their personal emotion from being able to just officiate. And I felt like there was some personality and personal emotion that got in there. And the best officials really do a good job at diffusing, and I just didn't see that. But it is what it is. We could try to appeal it. I doubt it will go anywhere. I'll have to serve a 2-game suspension to start 2025, and it's a tough way to end. I hate it for our guys the most. I know everyone's fired up and pissed off, and we are too, and it's just because it stems from the outcome of the game being influenced from a ejection or something from even the year before. And You even go back the year before to Louisville, kind of same thing, controversial call when we were at Michigan. So it's part of the game and it's part of what happens. It just sucks to always be on the wrong side of it. So I hate it for our players, I hate it for our fans, I hate it, for our program, but it is what it is. And we say it all the time, like, we're not that bad that we need every call. We're not. But when you start hucking players, whether it's Jack Crichton or Cam Cannarella last year, or potentially Alden Mathis, and then a couple of, a coach and a staff member, it's not what anybody wants. I don't think that's what the good officials want, at least. So just all around unfortunate, and I don't know if there's really much more to say about it. I know a lot of people are talking about it, but probably wouldn't, probably just need to move on.
As you go back and look at the video, do you feel like you did anything wrong as you go back and reassess the situation, or do you think you handled it the way you felt like at that moment you should have handled it?
Well, if grounds for ejection or a coach inciting the crowd, then I might get ejected an awful lot. Because I like engaging with our crowd. I like waving I do it all the time with 2 outs and 2 strikes. I'll look at them and tell them to get up. I always do that with the crowd. I love that I love that DKS is our 10th man. It feels like they're on our team, and I am always going to interact with our crowd. Sorry, not sorry. I'm going to keep doing that. So I guess I'm going to keep getting ejected, because that was the explanation I got, is because I incited the crowd when Coach Leggett was walking out. That's why I got ejected. And then just the cavalier way of just, yeah, you're ejected, and then the turn was almost antagonistic, I felt. But it is what it is, and that's unfortunate that there was that. But if you're asking me, would I incite the crowd again? Hell yes.
I mean, isn't that the point? You guys earned home field advantage. Like, you have a crowd.
I don't apologize for inciting the crowd, and I never will. I love the crowd, and the crowd's got our back, and we've got theirs, and we're in it together, and they're the 10th man, and let's go. And this crowd is going to be back, and we're going to be back, and we're going to keep being the 10th man together, because this freaking community is awesome.
Take us through the incident with Crichton getting ejected and you telling the umpire that he's going to have to be the one to do it.
Yeah, so that was more the eye in the sky replay in Pittsburgh. I wouldn't put the blame on anything other than the way the rule is written, is if anyone leaves their position. I understand the intent of the rule. Sometimes impact doesn't match intent. The rule is if a guy is on the bases or is on the field and they leave to get into an altercation, they're ejected. In this situation, Jack Crichton was on second base. He was rounding third because of the swinging bunt, and he was already on his way home. The play ends with a tag, and then the altercation. Caglione, and then Nolan. They have contact. Whether Nolan put his arms out, it's really not the point. There was an altercation between Nolan and Jack Caglione. I felt like those were the 2 guys. If you want to look at who's getting ejected, it starts with those 2. Jack Crichton rounding third and coming to home and then taking a left turn and joining his teammates, like, that's where he's naturally going anyways. That's where he's going to start the next inning. That's where normally that's where he would, if talking about leave his position, well, that's where he's supposed to go. He's supposed to go back to the dugout. I don't know where else, if he's just supposed to stop and go back to third or what, but that just seemed like one of those ones where the rule, created a cloud over maybe just common sense, and so that was, I didn't understand that of all the people that could get ejected on the field, why Jack Crichton was the one. But the rule that probably needs to be clarified further with a rule change. And then I had to eject Cam Cannarella last year in the regional, and that sucked, and no one knew what was going on. And Cam Cannarella and Christian Moore were like passing each other. They weren't just running off the field with some competitive banter, some words exchanged as they went by. No one heard it, no one knew it. One umpire heard it. And Angel Campos came over and said, he said something, he's ejected, you gotta eject him. And I just felt like that was, I'm not doing that. I'm not the one to eject the players. If there needs to be an ejection, the umpires can do it. That's their job.
Eric, is it frustrating after what many people are describing as one of the greatest college baseball games ever, including Cam Cannarella saving your season twice? We're talking largely about the officiating.
Yeah, it's disappointing. Yeah, you want the officiating to govern the game, not necessarily influence the outcome of the game when emotions are connected and personalities are connected with how it's being officiated. You just want that to be as simple of a process, and just you don't want either side to feel like there was an influence one way or the other by officiating. But that's sport, that's competitive sport, and that happens. It's just the frequency of the back-to-back years where we're talking about it. But Cam Cannarella's catch, my opinion, and I've heard from quite a few people, so this is not just my opinion, but the greatest catch they've seen in baseball ever. Given the stakes, given everything. I mean, that kid, he's a human highlight reel. There's nobody more competitive than Cam Cannarella, and I love him. I love everything about him. I love his fierce competitive spirit. I love the fire he plays with. Wouldn't change one thing about how he plays. He is a throwback. He is just as good as it gets, and that catch is indicative of just how competitive he is. There's no way that ball should have been caught, and he found a way to catch it and save our season, and it would have been an even better story if we had found a way to win the game.
Being what you just said with the umpires and all, I know schools can request that the umpires or officials be reprimanded. Have y'all put in that request or what?
We haven't. I don't know about that request. I've never heard of that. As far as I know, there is no oversight or anything like that. And, we're not talking about all umpires. I mean, we're just talking about it just happens to be in back-to-back years we've had ejections, and maybe that's just a very weird coincidence. If there is an appeal process, I've been in contact with the ACC, and we're looking at maybe getting some video and just making sure the reports and the video evidence line up and see if there is anything to appeal. But what would we be appealing? I mean, we're maybe the suspension of 2 games, but I deserve to get the 2-game suspension based on staying out there and arguing prolonged. Like, that's very black and white. I got a warning for 2 games and I ignored it, and I would do that again too. I just felt like it was the threat of ejecting Mathis, and then the ejection of Coach Leggett, and then the ejection of myself and really no explanation, and just a quick turn and walk away. Sorry, I don't apologize for being competitive either. So I'm sure I'll have to serve the suspension, and I'll serve it, and we'll move on.
Yes, going back to
Going back to Cam's catch, a lot of times when the ball's hit right at you in the outfield, sometimes you might take a step in or you freeze. He was immediately going backwards. And we know that he's played hurt all year. He turns one way, turns the other, and then paying no attention to the wall makes the catch. So I have to know, number one, is that kind of what makes it the greatest play you've ever seen, the greatest play I've ever seen? And then number 2, the kid kind of ignoring the injury, putting his body on the line.
Yeah.
And what was your thought when you saw it, like, jaw drop? Oh my God, like, what went through your mind?
Yeah, it's hard for kids, outfielders especially, to turn and run and just take their vision off of the ball and just run to a spot. And the best outfielders I've ever seen can just turn their head and run to a spot. And Cam has that superpower defensively, but it was the combination of being able to run to a spot, pick up the ball late, run up a hill, jump into a fence with an injured shoulder, catch it without even catching it, secure it. And oh, by the way, the stakes, our season's over if he doesn't catch it, makes it the greatest catch I've ever seen. I mean, you have to throw the stakes in there because there is a clutch gene, and Cam Cannarella grades off the charts in the clutch gene. He's just the single greatest clutch performer I've ever been around in sport, and it's one of the reasons that he has this superpower of producing when the game's on the line. He's just, his competitive nature fuels him to another level. He's just got the it factor that we're so fortunate to have him on our team, and any professional organization after next year is going to love having this kid on their team, because he's just going to make them win, and he makes us win.
And then what does it mean, considering the kind of grimy nature of college athletics now, that his phone's probably going to be ringing off the hook, for him to come out and say, I don't want to play for anybody else other than Coach Bakich. Clemson's where I want to be, just kind of putting that out there right away.
Yeah, it speaks to the integrity of he and his family. And we'll do our part too to make sure that we take care of him financially. And we'll need the help of our community and our donors to continue to work on this. This is something that we've been outspoken about, and really it's just so prevalent now in college athletics. If you want to eliminate tampering, then do whatever you have to do to retain your best players. And so we'll certainly do that. And he's earned it. He deserves it. And we're in a time where we need to play with the big boys, and we need to we want to win national championships and compete for trips to Omaha. And the landscape has changed, and we need to adjust, and we are, and we will. But having him come out proactively and say, this is where I am, and this is the place I'm going to be, is a huge reflection of just the quality character that Cam Cannarella and his family represent.
Because now that the season is over, what actually was the injury that he was playing the season with, or does he need any surgery this offseason?
He will get surgery. He had a tear in the shoulder, and he will get surgery. He, fortunately, the surgery will not be until July, so he'll get a chance to represent the United States of America with Team USA. So that'll be cool. It was more of an injury that affected him right away, limited his throwing, which is why he DH'd for a while. But again, there's another example of just Cam's character and just who he is as a person, to play through an injury all year, and it never went away. It just he found a little bit of a lower slot where it didn't affect him as much, but it still affected him. But didn't affect his hitting. It affected his base running a little bit, because we couldn't get as big of a lead, because we didn't want him diving back to first base, so he couldn't steal bases. But you throw all of that together, and the kid was able to just push that to the side and compartmentalize an injury, and just say, I still want to compete and perform for my team. And he'll always go down as just the most competitive, one of the toughest, just one of the best kids I've ever seen play baseball.
You say goodbye to a senior class, some that embraced you when you came in as their new head coach, and then some Michigan guys that transferred as well. Just this group and what they did